Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Oh, I missed you. What was that?
how are you?
I'm good, babe. How are you?
Good. You look cute.
Oh, stop it, you. All
Happy Wed-
right.
Happy
You
well,
too. everybody.
everybody. Um, so today, in light of National Mental Health Week, we wanted to have a chat about I guess how training and nutrition can impact our mental health. So I think this is an interesting one, and it's not rocket science, as we kind of discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Everything that we're about to tell you and say is not anything that you probably haven't heard before, but it's probably something that is good to kind of touch on, and remember, I guess. And sometimes we can tell you from a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so a couple of questions that came through this week in regards to how our training and nutrition can impact our mental health. Talking about motivation to train. And I think that that's something, especially at the moment, that's super relevant because of lockdown and how we may have been managing our training and nutrition over the last couple of months. And now things are starting to open back up again. And so talking about motivation, yeah, I guess we training and mental health for me, it's pretty simple, right? Like exercise has many benefits. And it's going to help us to stimulate chemicals that will improve our mood, and parts of our brain responsible for things like memory and learning. It's just going to make us feel better in general. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we all know that after we've been for a beautiful walk in the sun, or we've gone to the gym and we've done a workout, or we've gone and had an intense training session, whatever that looks like for you, we always feel better.
Yeah.
Generally, half the struggle is getting there for sure. And
Yeah.
whether or not that's just a normal day or you are feeling particularly crappy and down,
Yeah.
for everyone, we all have days where we just kind of don't feel like showing up. So
100%.
let's dig into some of the things which Caitlin and I utilize in our coaching, and maybe questions that we probe and ask our girls to help on those days that maybe you just don't feel like training, you don't feel like showing up. And because Caitlin and I can't just hand you motivation on a silver platter. It's really not that easy. We wish we could. That would make our life really easy, but it's not that simple. So
Yeah.
some of the things that I suppose we or I would look at with regards to helping my girls to find that motivation per se, is it comes back to discipline. It just really comes back to discipline. So Caitlin and I were chatting before this, and we were both on exactly the same page with, like, it always comes back to who do you want to show up as?
Yeah.
Like, who do you want to be? And you need to start to emulate her now. You need to start to act like her now. What would she be doing? And when you start to ask yourself these questions, you can start to gain more clarity around your motivation behind the importance of doing something.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. When anyone comes to me with the word motivation, I just want to slap them a little. So for me, motivation comes second. Action is always first. And you're going to just pluck motivation out of thin air. It doesn't. It's a fleeting emotion. Like it doesn't stick around always, and you cannot rely on it to get your shit done. And so at the end of the day, as we have discussed on numerous occasions, who do you want to be in 6 months' time? Who do you want to be in 12 months' time? If you want to, identify as a healthier version of yourself, what would that person be doing in this moment? And you really need to bring it back to that moment. So if you're lying in bed and you're like, I can't be fucked going to the gym, neither can I. But at the end of the day, I know the girl that I want to be, she would get up and get her shit done. Always try and do the hard shit first. Like, if you can not put off your workout until the end of the day, because it will not happen. If you can, try and get a workout in on a Monday, because if you don't start your week right, you're not going to continue it well. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, like it's always comes back to who is the person that you want to be, and what do they do? How do they
Yeah.
show up for themselves, and how can you start taking action now in order to push yourself in that direction?
Absolutely. And like, yes, this definitely comes for training, but this is like such a broader kind of spectrum in respect to if you are feeling crap, like who do you want to be? Because unless you're super clear on that, how are you going to get there? I ask my girls this. I'm like, you need to really clearly identify what your ideal self looks like. Because if you are a bit wishy-washy about it and you're really not sure, how can anybody else help you get there? Like,
And if
it's impossible.
well, if it's like, oh, like I just want to be better.
What does that look like? What does better
Yeah.
look like? What does it feel like? Why do you
Yes.
want to be better?
Yeah.
They're the questions I will probe. I just keep asking questions. I will poke the bear until I get the answer I need.
But I think like that's the best part about having a coach, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we don't want to focus on the hard shit, and we don't want to ask ourselves those hard questions. So yes, it can be uncomfortable, but if you've got someone who is like, what does that person do? How do they start their day? Like, where do they shop? What do they buy? Like,
Yes.
caring, how are they showing up for themselves? Unless you actually spend the time to sit down and think about that yourself, it's a very, I guess, uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah.
And most people put it off, and therefore without that defined I guess trajectory, like how do you get there?
Yeah, exactly. I love what you just said because this is exactly what I do in week 1 of my coaching. All my girls get homework and they have to sit there and think about and write down like what their ideal self looks like. How does she act? Where does she shop? What does she do? Because by identifying those things, it helps align your course and your direction. And there's a book, and I always forget what it's called. And I feel like from what you just said, you've read it, but I don't know if you have. It's not called Act As If, but it's something like that, and it's by Chris someone. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if
think
you've read it. Yeah, it's really good, and it just when you read it, it just makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, like it's so important to break that shit down, and not just accept that where you're at is where you need to be. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
a lot of people will be like, I feel like shit, and that's just how my day's gonna go because I feel like shit. And it's
yeah,
like, well, you feel like shit, but at the end of the day, you are in control of your day. And we want to make sure that we're taking action steps in order to feel better. If you want to
yeah.
feel better,
You have
if
the
you
choice.
sit in your shit and feel
Yeah.
like crap, then that's probably what's going to happen. But
Mhm.
if you like to feel better, if you want to still tick your boxes and get your shit done, change the direction of your day. You
Yeah.
can do that.
You always have the choice.
You
You always.
always. I
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
can't like express that enough. It does my head in when people feel like that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. Like, you have the choice every single day. You are one decision away from changing the course of your whole entire day.
If you choose to.
If you
You
choose
can
to.
choose not to. You can choose there to sit in your shit, and that's okay every now and then. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Don't let it be every day.
But don't play the victim to yourself. Like, you have the choice. Yes, okay, there are things in our external that we can't control, and that's fine. Like, prime example, lockdown. Fair enough. We're in lockdown. We can't fucking do anything about it. However, you can do something about what you choose to do with your day and how you choose to run your day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So on that, let's talk about so like if we go back to like how can you actually help your motivation to get to the gym and to train and whatnot. Environment's a really good part of setting yourself up for more success, be this for actually getting to the gym or for your nutrition or your habits or whatever that looks like day to day. Do you have anything, babe, that you would recommend with respect to this for your girls?
I think being really aware of your own habits and your own bullshit as well. If you're a person who's going to snooze your phone or your alarm 34 times, and trust me, I'm kind of that person. Put it somewhere else, like put it outside of your room. So when the alarm goes off, you have to actually physically get out of bed. You're less likely to put yourself back into bed if you're already up. Get yourself set up so everything's ready to go. You don't have to think about it. It's that decision fatigue when we're so tired and we can't be bothered doing anything, that like even just trying to choose what leggings you're going to wear is going to be way too hard. So get your shit out, your undies, your leggings, your shoes, your socks, everything, and set it up at the end of the bed so that you're ready to go. You know, your gym bag. Make sure that you're just like, there's nothing that you need to do in that morning other than just put your clothes on and fuck out. Exactly. So yeah, I think again, being self-aware of, you know, the excuses that we tend to lean towards and trying to mitigate how, you know, just removing that from the actual scenario.
Clear the path, make it as easy as possible.
So easy. And I think also looking for support. So if you have a partner, if you have a housemate, whatever it is, like try and let them know that it's important to you, that you want to go to the gym, so that when you roll over and go, babe, I can't be bothered, they turn around and say, just like you said you wanted to go. Otherwise it's easy to be like, oh, okay, I'll just stay in bed. And I coaching, like I say to my girls, if they're really struggling to hit their sessions, tell me what days you're going to show up for yourself, and I will be that person that's like, so today's Wednesday, what are we doing?
Have you been?
Yeah, exactly. Let me like push you to the point where you don't have a choice, because you're now accountable to me. And you know, if that's what you need to do in order to start, that's fine. At the end of the day, we want you accountable to yourself. But yeah, like that's what we're there for, the support and accountability there as well.
And that becomes autonomous in the end as well. Like that is what turns into discipline. So in the mornings where you maybe just don't feel like showing up, you just go, I'm going to do it anyway, because you know it's good for you.
It's what we do. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's odd to not go to the gym. It would be weird. If I'm not feeling it, I know because of my past history, I'll feel better after it's done. So just get it fucking done. Yeah.
And like you said, eat the frog first. Like if it's going to get put off, do it at the start of the day. It's done. Even if that's just a walk, literally get up and just go for a walk. I don't care what time it is. If that needs to be at 5 a.m., go for a walk.
And that's the thing, like if you have steps to hit and you're struggling at the end of the day to get them, so change the pattern, like go early, get as much as you can done first. It doesn't have to be your whole step count, but get as much of the chunk done first, so that the rest of the day it's easy. Like you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. I love all of that.
Yes. So let's talk about then nutrition. Obviously that's training and how it can make us feel better. But how does nutrition impact mental health from your perspective?
Okay. So if we're looking at mental health with respect to this, I would assume that there could maybe be a bit of a vicious cycle at the moment where you don't feel like showing up, you've got no motivation, you can't be bothered. So as a result of that, you're making poor choices and you just feel like you're stuck in this vicious cycle with that. Super, super common. But again, it just comes back to the choices you make. So like I would look heavily here at your environment. Set yourself up for success. Talk to the people that you're, you know, closely associated with. Get them on board with helping you. But your nutrition hugely impacts, obviously, your gut health. There is a direct correlation and relationship between your gut and your brain. And this is something that's being much, much more commonly spoken about now, which is amazing because it helps people to better understand that what you're putting into your body, how you fuel your body, has a direct relationship with how you feel, how you function.
100%.
So, yeah. So like there's if I go like a little bit sciencey now, I won't go too much into this, but there's a nerve from your brain to your gut, and it's called your vagus nerve. And
Yeah.
this nerve here is so important for your automatic nervous system. So this is the nerve that helps you basically switch from your fight and flight mode, your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're stressed out and feeling like crap, to your rest and digest state, which is exactly what it sounds like. Sorry, I just said that backwards. Your sympathetic nervous system is your heightened state, baby brain, and your parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest. That's your calm state of being.
Yeah.
So when you're feeling really frazzled and overwhelmed and stressed and burnt out, we need to be able to come back to this state. So that two-way communication line from your brain to your gut and your gut to your brain is super, super important. So we need this to be really strong and to be healthy, and for you to be able to flip back and forward from one state to the other state easily and not get stuck in that heightened state, which is probably unfortunately where a lot of people have been stuck in the last, wherever you're located, but for the last 2 years. So this is super, super, super important.
I think we've mentioned this before, but we've almost played down how stressed we have been, if that makes sense. Like, it's become a for us to be in that heightened state. So everyone, if you say, how stressed are you? People are like, I'm not that bad. But reality is we're like on the brink of a fucking breakdown. And we just become normalized to be in that heightened state. And they don't say you are what you eat for no reason. Do you know what I mean? I think if you're constantly feeding yourself shit, you're not going to feel great, and you're also not going to make great decisions. It's not going to help you push the needle forward when it comes to motivation to train. You're not fueling your body in the best way possible.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like, if you feel like you're stuck in this cycle, like our last week, our IGTV might actually help you, because it's about emotional eating and taking control of your nutrition. So we won't dig into all that we did last week, but go and have a look at it. But again, like, set yourself up for success. I probe a lot of questions with my girls. So I will start to ask things like, if there's a little bit of resistance for maybe choosing healthier foods or optimizing food choice, I will start to ask questions. So before you sit down to eat, or before you construct a meal, or before you write your grocery list, however far back those steps need to go, I want you to sit there and ask yourself, how will this meal or how will this food benefit me? Will it actually benefit me, or won't it? Is it just going to give me a moment of pleasure and then I'm going to feel guilty later? If that's the case, cool. Just bring awareness to that to start with.
Yeah. And that's
just
sorry, I was just going to say, it comes back to that same old question, like, what are you trying to achieve out of this, if that makes sense? You know, when you do sit down to a meal, and the same with us eating out and things like that, what are we trying to achieve from this process of eating? Is it to fuel your body? Is it to just enjoy something that you haven't had in a really long time? And all of these things are okay, but being clear of that decision is really important.
Yeah, and it does. It just, like, this is where it comes back to being clear on who it is you want to be. There's nothing wrong with going out for a meal. There's nothing wrong with having something that you might consider bad or whatever you want to label it. It's how you choose to deal with that afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And I guess that kind of brings to one of the questions, which is, what are the right foods to eat? And I'm sure as a coach, you also get this question so often. I know for so long we've had labels around food being bad and good. And for me, I'll always bring it back to balance, right? Again, what is the desired outcome of eating? I think for so many people, we feel like there has to be joy in food every single time we eat. And it's just not the way that, like, when we were cavemen, you ate to survive. That's literally it. And I think that it's really important to remember, like, we're here, we eat to fuel our bodies the best way we possibly can. And if you're eating for enjoyment every single meal, we're probably going to be missing out on a lot of really important micronutrients that we need in order for us to be feeling the best we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily think that there are right or wrong foods, but there needs to be some form of balance, and there are obviously foods that are going to better benefit us in the long run.
Absolutely. And this is where it comes down to individuality as well. Like I say to my girls, I'm not going to tell you what to eat because that doesn't teach you anything. I'm going to guide you and I'm going to give you recommendations. I'm going to say, hey, I want you to eat more omega-3s because they're anti-inflammatory and they're great for your joints and they're going to be good for your gut health and they're going to be good for your skin and good for cognition, blah, 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 blah. That's what I'm going to tell you. If you choose not to follow my advice, that's okay. But I've given you the tools, the knowledge, and the understanding to make a choice for yourself, because at the end of the day, the choice needs to be yours. We are not here just to tell you, please go and follow this meal plan, because it just doesn't teach you anything. So for me, it's about empowering women to make their own choices based on having transparent knowledge and understanding. So this is where, if we pull it back, like, what are the best foods to eat? Ones that make you feel good. Again, comes back to self-awareness. If you go and eat a whole bunch of gluten and after that gluten you've got poor energy and brain fog, is that the best food for you to eat? I'm not going to tell you gluten's bad for you. I'm going to tell you, check in with how the fuck you feel. If you don't feel good after it and you notice that 3 hours later you're bloating or you've got this big crash in energy, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you feel.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to self-awareness and being aware of not rushing through eating and actually taking time to process your food and then how you feel afterwards. Keep a food journal if you need to. Like, do all of these things. Actually give yourself a chance to understand how your body functions and how you feel after certain things.
Yep. And if you are struggling with your mental health, tracking is probably not the answer for you right now. I will start my girls sometimes when they come to me not tracking, because I can look at their history. I can feel the resistance in their voice. They've been trying to track and there's just so much resistance. It's like this tug of war. Yeah. I'm like, cool, babe, let's just set some really basic parameters that you are going to nail every day, because if you tick all those boxes, at the end of the day, how are you going to feel? Win, 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 win. If I'm forcing you to track your food and you're having to weigh stuff and you know, like, there's a lot of restriction, how are you going to feel? Probably fucking terrible, and you're probably not going to like me for it. So this is where it needs to be individualized. It needs to come back to, where are you at in your journey? How are you really feeling at the moment? Because you, like, naturally, we want to take the path of least resistance. Yes, that's a totally valid thing, but then also you can't just go like willy-nilly doing your own thing if it's not working. There still needs to be some structure and some guidelines so that you have something to adhere to and something to tick off every day and feel like you're having those wins and having that success with things.
Yeah, I think it's so important to celebrate those wins as well, especially if your mental health is lower and you're feeling a little bit shit. Like, keep it simple. It doesn't, we overcomplicate things so much. It doesn't
definitely.
And I think, like, for me, there's a little bit of resistance when it comes to keeping it simple when you come on board for coaching, because people are like, well, you're not teaching me anything, or we're not really like pushing it to get to my goal. But it's like, sometimes we need to strip it back completely, because again, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again and you're not getting the results. We need to actually work on the basic structure first and get your foundation set before we can actually push it. Do you find that, like, when people come on board, I can't just
I talk a lot with my girls about adding layers. I'm like, cool, we layer things as necessary, and as necessary is totally dependent on the individual. So this is where I can teach you a whole bunch of fancy nutritional timing strategies and preferentially timing nutrients here, there, and everywhere, and, you know, backloading carbs and utilizing your anabolic window and all of these fancy terms. But
Yeah.
they ain't gonna mean shit if you can't just stick to a normal freaking basic plan. If
No.
you're so all over the place and just simply getting up and making a meal is hard enough, well, how the fuck is that going to help you right now? Let's just get the basics strong first. You need to have wins first. It's the
100%.
same with like food elimination. Like if we go back to like gut health and optimizing gut health, which has an absolute 100% direct relationship on your mental health. If not, if someone comes to me with anxiety, the first place I start is their gut. It
Yeah.
seems a bit counterproductive, but that's where it starts. It always starts in your gut. If you have anxiety, I'm looking at your gut, and I'll go into that more as we go through things. But you need to be able to just have basic understanding of food first before we start adding in food elimination and food restriction, because
Absolutely.
like that's just going to further exacerbate whatever's going on.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess bringing it back to the mental health and how our training, nutrition, and our lifestyle in general can kind of help with that. One of the last questions that we got was, how can I better balance my moods? Which is important, obviously. And I think that it has a lot to do with how we set up our day, realistically. So for you and I, and we discussed this earlier, like even simple things like getting yourself out into the sunshine, starting your day off out in fresh air, going for a walk, getting some general movement first and foremost before you even come back and eat or have your coffee or whatever it might be. Get yourself up and out and into the fresh air and into the sunshine, and bring it back to your actual body, if that makes sense.
Yep, definitely,
right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if no, you go.
I was going to say, from a physiological level, that's obviously more your kind of jam. And like starting your day off right, as far as, your first meal of the day, like just really set yourself up and pre-plan for a great day. Like I think that it's so important, and you and I have spoken about this a fair bit lately as well, language. And when you wake up, preempt a great fucking day. Like if you wake up and you're already like, oh, I'm so tired, like you're already starting out in a negative kind of way. So I'm not saying you have to spring up out of bed. There's no way that this does that. But, at least like give yourself an opportunity. Do a thought download in the morning. Like when we do wake up, 70% of our thoughts are negative as it is. Write it all down. Take away with you for the day what you actually want to, what actually serves you, and leave all the other shit behind. Get up and start moving. Like start doing things that are going to really benefit you in the long run. And yes, they're fucking hard to start with. And there is so much, it's so easy for us to be like, oh, no, not today. I'll do it tomorrow. But if you can start the ball rolling, it's only going to take a matter of a couple of days before it starts to begin something that you can see the benefits from, and you start to continue to do it.
Definitely. And this is the other thing, like if we come back to looking at it from a more physiological level, if I touch on a couple of points here, when you wake up, you shouldn't feel like you're in a heightened state. If you wake up and you're like, oh my God, fuck, I'm late. You jump out of bed, you're rushing, you rush through breakfast. Maybe you don't even make breakfast. You grab a coffee and you drink your coffee on the way to work, and you're sitting in traffic. So then you're more stressed about that, and you've just added caffeine to your system. So you're heightening your adrenals even more, and you're pushing more and more into that sympathetic state, which is your fight and flight. Then you get to work and you've got a deadline that you've got to meet, and blah, blah, blah. This just keeps rolling on the whole day. All of these things that just keep placing you in this heightened state of stress. When you are up here, it's really hard for your body to function properly. You need to be able to come back down to here. So like, if we talk about as soon as you wake up, like Kate just mentioned, maybe you just do a brain dump. Cool. How about we set some intentions for the day? What do you want your day to look like? Write 3 things down. Maybe you just think about them in your brain. You're having your shower. Maybe you're like, I get up and I put some music on nearly every day. I don't get up and put the fucking news on because the news is depressing. Like, what are you doing? Like, think about your morning. Do you know what I mean? Are you rushing? Are you sitting down and allowing yourself 15 minutes to have some breakfast, to have some eggs, to make some muesli, to have a smoothie? Or are you like huffing it down while you try and change your kids and you try and rush out the door and you're in this heightened state? And this is the relationship that I talk about between your brain and your gut, in your vagus nerve. So this is where, like, how do we stimulate your vagus nerve to help bring you back to a calm state where you can also digest your food properly? Breathing, meditation, like all those calming things. And when I say meditation, I don't mean you have to sit there in a yoga pose and your way through your morning. I mean, have some fucking self-awareness about how you're feeling. Slow down, stop, breathe, take a couple of big deep breaths, get some oxygen into your body, because it's so important.
Exactly.
Just self-awareness. And then if I take this one more step, and I won't go into this too much, but your neurotransmitters hugely dictate how you feel every day. So like if we go back to Caitlin saying, get up and get some sunlight in the morning. Why do we want to do that? So sunlight has a direct correlation with your serotonin levels. It helps raise your serotonin. We've all heard of serotonin. Serotonin is your happy hormone. It makes you feel good. So we want to have enough serotonin. If you're deficient in serotonin, it's really hard to feel good. So we need to support that. We can support that with magnesium. What's my go-to for all my girls? Magnesium, for many, many, many reasons. But this is where nutrients come into play here. Serotonin is the precursor to melatonin. What's melatonin? Your sleep hormone. If you don't have enough melatonin, you're not going to be sleeping well. You're going to wake up feeling shit, and you're going to start that cycle again.
Exactly.
Where is melatonin produced? In your gut. Why does your gut matter? Because it's so important for these other hormones and neurotransmitters. Like, it's this big flow and effect. Same with GABA. GABA is an inhibitory transmitter. If you don't have enough GABA, then you're going to be in this heightened state. So these are all the things we can start to look at. Your hormones, like progesterone, is good for sleep. If you have hormone imbalance, you're not going to be sleeping properly, potentially, depending what that looks like. So this is where when we can take things a step further, but there's no point kind of going this far if you can't just clearly identify who you want to show up as. And what I'll quickly do as well is, Caitlin sat in on it at the start of this year. I took a masterclass that talked all about the gut-brain axis and why it's really important. So if anyone wants me to link them through to that as a replay, send me a message or drop a comment in this once we post it afterwards, and I will send it through to you.
Yeah, for sure. No, that was very, very helpful. I think ultimately there's a matter of not accepting that where you are is the only place you can be. Does that kind of matter? I mean, does that make sense? So, you know, when we talk about getting these things done, if it's so hard for you to get up in the morning and to get out and get that fresh air and that sunlight on your face, then maybe we need to think about what time you're going to bed. Like, have the self-awareness enough to think about what the things are that are stopping you from doing the things that are going to help you, and take action on those. Go to bed 20 minutes earlier, get up earlier. Like, it doesn't need to be rocket science, and it doesn't need to be difficult, but you do have to help yourself. If you're not going to make changes and take action to make the changes that you need to, then you're going to feel stuck, and you're going to feel like this is what it is and you can't do anything about it, but you can. It's about making those actually improve where you are.
And in light of, you know, if you are really struggling at the moment, like, reach out to Caitlin and I. We're here to talk. We're here to support. Get help that you need. Like, speak to people. I know that can be really, really scary. But I truly believe that you can set yourself up for success. You can choose a better option. And those steps can be baby steps to start with. They can be tiny, but that's going to start the trajectory forwards. It's going to start to propel that momentum. So just start small and then work from there. Don't set your expectation up here if you're feeling so overwhelmed with life, start down here. Be really kind to yourself, because right now what your body needs is for you to nurture it and nourish it and love it and be kind to it, not sit there and beat yourself up and play the victim and be hard on yourself.
Yeah, it's not going to get you anywhere. At the end of the day, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think like we just need to slow down and take a second to really have a think about where you want to be, who you want to be, what that person does, but give yourself the grace to actually stop, understand where you're at, understand where you want to be, and then have a look at where those action steps need to be in order to get to that place. And yeah, Jules and I are all about to kind of talk you through that. And it, like you said, it doesn't have to be crazy complicated. Like it literally might be working on going to bed 10 minutes earlier each night this week. And then that habit stacking wise is going to mean that we can then look at getting up 10 minutes earlier each week, each day, each week. And then moving into, you know, once we're up 10 minutes earlier, going for that walk for 10 minutes. And then it could increase to 20 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be crazy hard. Just take the little steps. And the more we can show up for ourselves, the more confidence we're going to have that we can do it.
Yeah. And on that, don't wait till you're confident to do something. You'll be waiting forever. You'll be waiting forever. I hear this all the time. I'm waiting to be confident till I do it. Okay. Well, how are you going to get confident in doing it if you don't just do it? Just do it. You can't fuck it up. Just do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's us done.
Thank you so much for today. Guys, if you have any questions that you want us to cover, please do drop them into the question box that we pop up every Monday. And we would love to chat through the things that actually mean something to you and that you want to know more about.
Yes. Awesome. If anyone wants that replay, send me a message or drop a comment. And Kate and I are here for you. Yeah. Awesome. Amazing.
Thanks. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, guys.